What's up everybody, it's Robin Gaming here. So of course I needed to talk to you a little bit about the Mirror's Edge gameplay video that was finally revealed earlier this week at Gamescom by EA. That was 5 minutes of actual gameplay footage for Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and you all know how much of a big fan I am of the series. I bought the very first game back in 2008. I've been loving it ever since. You know, I'm pretty much picking this game up every couple of weeks to play it for a good hour or so, and I've been doing that ever since the day I bought the game. That's how big of a fan I was. I used to get or try to go for world records in the past on the time trial maps. I had so much fun with the very first Mirror's Edge, and therefore, you know, it was awesome to see this game finally being announced 2 years ago at E3, and now we're here, we finally saw actual gameplay, and what can I say, I was super impressed. You know, the game so far seems to be doing literally everything I wanted it to do. So I quickly just wanted to go over what we saw here exactly. Let's just start off with the graphics, because it's always easy to, you know, begin with that. Of course, the game looks gorgeous. I go back and play Mirror's Edge, you know, from 2008, and it still looks almost up to par with any game that comes out these days. That's how amazing the first game looked, and this one just like adds a little bit on top of that. Of course, it's being made in the Frostbite 3 engine. You can see that it kind of has that similar look to other DICE games like Battlefield and Battlefront, right? But yeah, it just looks awesome. I mean, look at the effects, look at the way the character models look, the city itself, it's awesome. This one takes place in the City of Glass. What I noticed there is that the graphical style is actually a little bit different from the first game, and you may not necessarily notice that or think about that, but the very first game was super minimalistic, I would say. Used a lot of whites, reds, blues, yellows, right? This one still does that. There's still a lot of heavy color use, but at the same time, yeah, it is called the City of Glass, and that means that there are no real, you know, not a lot of concrete buildings and concrete city streets and that kind of stuff, which the first game definitely had. This is all very much made out of glass, as the city itself, you know, describes it, and you can simply see that it makes it a little shinier, I guess, a little glossier, but also cool. You know, I'm totally fine with that. I just find the game to look absolutely awesome. So then there is the gameplay, which still feels super smooth. The video that we saw was in 60 frames. You know, you could really see that smooth frame rate in the game itself, and it makes me wonder if the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One versions will also have that, because we do know DICE, they you know, used to show off their games on the PC running in 60 frames on, you know, for example with games like Battlefield, they always did that, whereas on consoles it would run slightly worse. That however wasn't the case with Battlefield 4, for example. It ran perfectly at 60 frames on the PS4, so I just have high hopes that it will also run at 60 frames on the PlayStation 4, but they haven't confirmed that yet, so that's something I'm definitely interested in. So also, I mean, a quick little thing I noticed, I would say, which was maybe a bit of a downside, then again, I can really see myself getting used to it, is that the animations seem to be a little stiff or fake or something. When you saw, you know, Faith rolling, it was super sort of straight, whereas in the first Mirror's Edge, the animation seemed really realistic to me. In this one, I did not really notice that too much yet, but once again, it could be something I will simply get used to, or maybe change my minds about. Maybe they're still gonna, you know, change the animations up a little bit, because they still have some time before the, you know, game comes out in February. So yeah, the controls are still the same. There's also no gun combat, which is awesome. A lot of people are very skeptical about that. They thought if DICE were to reboot Mirror's Edge, that they would, you know, focus much more on the gun combat, which had a lot of criticisms in the first game because it was simply not very well executed. I myself was fine with it. I would have been fine if this game would still have gun combat, actually, as long as they did it right and it worked, you know, and as long as you could still avoid doing it if you didn't want to. But once again, this game simply doesn't have any gun combat, which is awesome. So you only really get to see Faith using her karate moves, which I think you have about 2 buttons for or something. So really snappy, really quick. Once you're simply running through the city and you find some cops or some of these like security guys or whatever, you can simply take them out with the press of a button or two, I think. And that's great, because it keeps the momentum going, right? And that's what was so awesome about the first game, is you pretty much didn't want to be stopped in any way, and it did do that initially in the first game. So I'm very happy seeing that in this one. So I mean, that's pretty much already almost it. I still have a couple of questions, like what is the open world exactly going to be like? It's been confirmed that it's going to be an open world, but what are the sort of side missions you can do there? And also there is a multiplayer mode, but nothing has been said about that either. And I really want to know if I can race either together in co-op with my friends or against them in sort of like real-time races. That would be absolutely awesome to me, because to me Mirror's Edge really is a racing game. It's not so much a platformer, it's not so much an action game. No, to me it's a racer. I try to keep up the momentum, I try to keep going and beat a certain section in the smallest time possible. One quick little thing I will say actually that I did find, you know, pretty much the biggest negative about what I saw here is that I didn't really like the voice acting too much. Faith has a new voice, whereas I really liked the voice of Faith in the first game. Here it seems more like a Lara Croft kind of voice instead of a really tough, you know, tough woman or something like that. And at the same time you could really tell it was read from a script. And Faith has these kinds of noises that she makes when jumping, right? And you could still hear those even when she was talking about something related to the story. So those were the, you know, small little things that still stood out to me as being the negatives, but in itself I am super impressed by the game. I want to know from you in the comments, what did you think about the Mirror's Edge gameplay demo we saw at Gamescom? And then yeah, for now, I mean, I can't wait till February the 23rd when the game comes out. It's only going to be about half a year away from us, and until that point I'll be counting down the days for sure, because I cannot wait to play Mirror's Edge Catalyst on my PlayStation 4. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you a lot for watching. I hope to see you again next time.